Hello, friend, and thank you for joining us on AFTERBUZZ TV's Mr. Robot After Show. This is Season 2, Episode 6. It is a very special episode, so we're going to jump right into it.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Too many cooks. A family is like a soup. Everyone.
Hello, and welcome to AFTERBUZZ TV. I'm your host, Steve Kaufmann. You can find me on Twitter at Steve Kaufmann. That is Kaufmann.
And my name is Taylor Boldt. You can also find me on Twitter at Tayboldt. That's Tayboldt.
Hey guys, you can follow me on AOL at IamTheOne at AOL.com. Let's IAM chat. Okay, we're done.
That's
All right.
great. That's great. I like that.
Thank you, everyone, for indulging that.
Sorry. All right.
Thank you for joining us here, AFTERBUZZ TV. We're going to talk about Mr. Robot. A very special episode of Mr. Robot. Because this was the sitcom episode of Mr. Robot.
Yeah.
I loved it.
I love this so much.
I would watch the sitcom version of this show as a standalone.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
And the funny thing is, I feel we're like in a minority, or it's like a 50-50 split, because if you look at like all the boards, a lot of people didn't like it, or they thought it went too long.
Really?
I disagree.
It was long, but I liked it. Yeah, I liked it. I mean, I thought that this show earns the ability to do kind of odd things like that. It was like 20 minutes of a sitcom,
but there's something to be said about the formula of a sitcom. The formula and the mundane and similar to Too Many Cooks, which was part of why I chose that as the entrance music, because there's something to it. There's something to the mundane and like the repetitiveness, and that absurdity is kind of about how you get stuck in your thing until you realize that you have all the options, but by that point the construct is destroyed.
Yeah, well, the word absurdity just in and of
Mm-hmm.
itself, it's about the absurdity. I don't know. I think that a show like this can earn it, and I think they did.
Yes.
I liked it.
No, it was needed. It was to break it up, because and like you said, the absurdity of it all. When we were being told what we were being told with the laugh track, that's what had me floored.
Yeah.
You see
Yeah.
everything you see that happens, and you're like, it's being told in this way. And a lot of people, it's just a commentary on our society of the things that are going on. This is happening to you, but we're going to tell it you in such a way. I read a comment where someone said, you see this kind of stuff like on CNN, where you see tragedies that are, you have all the special effects, the lower third ticker, and you have all this stuff going on, these distractions, and you forget what's really happening. And
It's kind of creepy. It's kind of because you see, it doesn't matter what's happening with a laugh track. You're like, you feel that sort of like mirror neuron, like you want to laugh too.
But there are a couple other devices at play there that helped us move along. Like this was some deep. Like she put out a cigarette on her daughter's arm and then punched her in the face twice.
And it got laughs.
yeah.
It got laughs because of a laugh track.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that you put all the characters in a car and you start the episode that they're all in a car headed to a place. That's a common trope. Because if they're all in a car headed to a place, you're subconsciously already like, well,
That's like Vacation.
like you kind of already can beat that out in your head of like, well, they're gonna get it. They're gonna stop somewhere.
Yeah.
They're gonna get back in the car, and then they're gonna get stopped again, and then they're eventually gonna get to the place.
It's also goal oriented.
Yeah, like it's very goal oriented. That they follow the traditional 3-camera sitcom structure so much to a T. The laugh track was just part of the language, and we just accepted it, or at least I accepted it midway through. Where I was like, nope, this is the 19-minute sitcom version of this show.
As soon as I saw the opening that it was obviously like going to be like that I was like, this is going to be. I originally thought it was going to be the whole episode. I originally thought it was going to be the entirety of the episode.
Well, the only reason I was watching it live, and to be fair, I don't think I've ever watched this show live before, but Sam Esmail tweeted it, and then a couple other people after Sam Esmail tweeted it, the people who obviously get access to the episode before it was live, a bunch of them mentioned, like, this episode is worth watching live for the first 19 minutes alone. And being a nerd about TV, I am. 19 is a very particular... 19 minutes is an incredibly particular number.
Yeah.
Then I was like,
You're like, what's
so
going
that
on?
once
So
I
then
saw
you
that
knew
cold,
going in.
once I saw that cold open, I was like, oh, this is going to be a complete TV half of this TV show, complete with commercial breaks. It was an actual 1990 Bud Light commercial.
It was great.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. And I'm sure you were happy seeing the suits
The Suits commercial.
Suits commercial.
But it wasn't even in the regular block. Like
No.
we transitioned out, and then we were on a regular commercial break, and we get the Suits commercial.
You know, the funny thing about this whole commentary, and we're breaking this down, of course, everyone's like, get into the meat of everything that's going on. And of course, guys, send us your comments. I'm watching our chat roll. We have a live chat roll, and let us know what you think, and I'll chime in, I'll sprinkle it along and, you know, to add to our conversation. But what I wanted to say is, on top of this is all of Elliot's true view, because this is his subconscious talking, right? So he's usually cluing us in. He's giving us the narration, the unreliable narrator that he is, but he was giving us his subconscious, so this is how he really feels.
Yeah.
So this is how he feels about his mom.
It's also how his brain chose to escape.
Correct.
How his whole psyche chose to remove his, I guess, consciousness from what was actually happening to him. And then we get little glimpses of it, like in the Game Boy and in the side view mirror. That's
what's
really cool.
actually happening
And it makes
to
you go
him.
like, oh, what's going on?
But on the grand scheme of them choosing this stylistically,
It's how I think how he would have escaped as a kid in the 90s.
that's how a lot of us would have escaped.
Yeah.
And then there's also something to be said about how familiar that can be.
Sure.
Of like, my life's okay if I can just fit it into that box.
Yeah.
And then I think, oh, Alf was there, guys. Alf showed up.
I'm speechless about the Alf part, honestly. That was the best. And the funny thing is, they reached out to the people behind Alf, and they're huge fans of the show. So when they asked him to be a part of this, they said, absolutely.
That's great.
I feel like that's anyone at this point. Like,
Yeah. Well, it's just so.
yeah, like we're in that trajectory with Mr. Robot that, like, I'm pretty sure whoever they ask will come running.
In this case, Alf.
In this case,
And
it's
good
Alf.
for him. It's
good
good
for
work for Alf.
everybody. Yeah.
So what did we get out of this whole outside of the sitcom element? What did it tell us with, let's say, we have Tyrell, we have so
Well, presumably Tyrell. They didn't say.
We're
but-
pretty sure that's Tyrell.
We're pretty
Also,
sure,
a couple
but-
things I want to point out. People are mentioning that this is the first vision of this is the first time we've seen Tyrell in this season. That's not entirely true. We saw him in a similar vision. He was at that table in episode 3. He was at that table when Elliot dreams. Might have been 4? No, 3. When Elliot dreams, he's sitting
I don't
in
remember this.
Oh yes, he's at the dinner table.
He's at that dinner table with everybody.
Yes.
The apostles.
Of his
Yes.
perfect,
The perfect. Yeah.
of
gotcha,
his perfect
yes.
world.
Yes, he was.
Elliot
yes.
was there, or Tyrell was there. So we, under the same context, because neither of which were the reality.
Yeah. You know what? This, though, I think is going to be. I just have
Yeah.
a feeling that this is much more of a metaphor of what's going on with Tyrell. And I don't
Yeah.
know. I should save it for predictions. But I think that everything that was happening in the car ride, just in general, was some sort of symbol for what was actually going on. You know what I mean? Like the distractions, like Darlene with her head down, Elliot trying to figure out what's going on, and his dad trying to like monopolize his attention. It would make sense to me if the glimpses that we got of people were actually more metaphors for what's actually happening. But again, if this is all in Elliot's head, maybe it's just what Elliot perceives
Always
is happening.
Well, because Elliot talks to us, so
Yeah.
there's already a relationship there of kind of mistrust in what he's telling us. Or
Sure, this season
what
for
is-
sure.
And there's also
he started the season by saying he doesn't trust us.
yeah, but not to mention, even if he trusted us and told us an unfiltered version of how he sees things, your brain filters everything.
Yeah.
Your eyes aren't raw video cameras. Your eyes filter things through the brain. So everyone has their own perception and their own skew on the world. Elliot's is very particular.
For sure.
One big takeaway in this whole first act was when he met up with Angela and Mr. Robot pulled him away, and he said, "She's not one of us." Yeah, I found that very poignant. So I'm like, because usually, why would they say that? Why would they say that?
And why would his, I guess, part of his subconscious think that of her? Unless it's a weird thing because it is his subconscious, yet somehow a lot of times Mr. Robot knows stuff that Elliot doesn't know.
But
you know what I
that's
mean? A lot
partly
of times
because-
it's him telling him new information.
But that new information for us.
Sure,
and technically Elliot of the present, because Mr. Robot is Elliot. So
Right.
sometimes Mr. Robot acts as Elliot.
Right.
Meaning
So I guess what you're saying is like his subconscious in this.
his if Mr. Robot is him and Mr. Robot is a complete fracture of his reality, there are things that Mr. Robot knows that Elliot doesn't know, but they're ultimately a collective
I see what you're saying.
consciousness.
Yeah.
But the fact that he said in his subconscious that she's not one of us.
Yeah. Oh no, that means he has kind of written her off for what she's doing.
Yeah.
For what she's doing over at E Corp.
Or Mr. Robot knows more than Elliot does about her. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like maybe the Mr. Robot persona. Because, I mean, imagine that you have these two halves of your brain or consciousness or whatever. If one of them is taking over in a certain situation, as is happening right now for these first 19 minutes, then maybe they do actually have to communicate as personalities to transfer information. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like maybe Elliot doesn't ever know something that Mr. Robot experienced and vice versa until they interact as personalities. And that's what we saw. Maybe. You know what I'm saying?
No, I
Like,
agree. I could see it. I think it's coming to terms. That's been the whole plight of this season of him, I guess, merging with Mr. Robot, working together. It's going to be a thing.
Because that's them. This episode made it crystal clear.
Yeah.
I am you, you are me. We are everything.
I just think it's so interesting that we as an audience get to learn pieces of information because these two fractured parts of a character's psyche have to talk to each other.
Yeah.
And it's genius.
Yeah.
And it's also,
I really
but
like
the
it.
thread of duality is throughout this entire series, and especially this season, that there's duality in everyone. That I think you could argue that White Rose and Price are duality of each other. Like everyone's
Well, White Rose and him or herself is...
the White Rose and him or herself is its own duality, but I want to say Price. I want to say I'm not there. We're not there yet, but I want to say like every character, if you really broke it down, has a dual, like
I almost
has
think
an opposite.
Price and F Society, maybe. You know what I mean? Establishments and anarchical movers and shakers. You know what I'm saying? Maybe.
feel like
We need
F
to know more about
Society's-
Price.
I feel like
but
F Society's kind of a pawn, but we will definitely get there.
Sure.
All I'm saying is
Price might be a pawn, though. I wouldn't be surprised if Price was
I think
White
he's starting
Rose's
to feel
pawn.
that way.
Yeah, and we're going to get to, I think,
Before we jump into other things, do we have anything else before we leave sitcom land? Because I feel like we could talk the whole episode just about sitcom land and Alf and
the
Elliot
guy in the
and
trunk.
Gideon and guy in the trunk who's clearly Tyrell.
Yeah. Darlene being knocked unconscious. I wonder what that's
I think it's
symbolic for.
I think it's symbolic of very clear parental abuse from the mother to Darlene.
Sure.
And there were clues of it for a long time that this kind of confirms it, at least to me, because Elliot's psyche knows it.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's what that means
That
for us.
Darlene's still suffering from
What
it.
do we think about Gideon being the cop? Like, where does that?
That was odd because he's not, he was...
No, but
Other than it being a familiar face, like, is there meaning in Gideon being a cop and then Alf running him over? Beyond.
because he was the one that, well, if we backtrack to episode 1, he was the one that was in contact with the FBI, and he was about to give up Elliot.
Yeah.
Remember, and he never did because somehow he was killed.
So I think it does boil down to Elliot's
So it's
guilt.
like he's almost going to be in trouble because of him, and then some random person removes Gideon from the situation.
Like-
in this case,
Alf.
it's Alf. Great.
And then Elliot is incredibly guilty. Elliot is incredibly guilty about Gideon's death. He feels responsible.
Yeah, I think but I don't know if I get that from the sitcom, but of course he does.
But from the Gideon dying in the sitcom,
It seemed less Elliot's fault in the sitcom than it does in the show at large. But yeah, still maybe if he hadn't have been there to get pulled over, maybe Gideon would still be alive.
Also, real quick, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but there's still a lot of theories floating around that he's still in a mental institution, and this is all in Elliot's head. Can that not please? Can we not? That seems less and less likely every
It
week.
has to be, and I will go back to the first episode. Sorry about that, Taylor.
No, you're fine.
When he met up with Gideon. When he came in that meeting with Gideon, when he shut the door, that was not a house door he closed.
Yeah.
It's the same exact sound that it made when he was in the hospital, when they came to the hospital right in the scene yesterday.
Yeah.
When the door shut, when was it Lone Star that walked out? When you hear the door slam, makes the same exact sound it made when Gideon came in for the meeting. Exact same sound.
I'm on board with this theory that he's in an institution of some sort still.
Okay,
Because here's
then
the
I'm
thing.
the lone one.
It's like, to me, it's like the sitcom thing was his psyche's way of removing him from getting beaten, right? But when he comes to, he wouldn't all of a sudden not be in the institution anymore if he was in the first place. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. So to explore that theory, that means that Ray not only runs a creepy website, he also runs an insane asylum or
maybe-
some
maybe-
type of hospital.
I think
where
it's some
he
sort
makes
of
Elliot-
institution. I don't necessarily think it's. I mean, it
Yeah.
could be a criminal institution. You know what I'm saying? But I think he's captive.
I think that's part of what they implied from episode 1 of this season was that he made himself captive.
Well, let's add to what Taylor just said. His password to his computer was caretaker. Braze.
All right, I think.
Oof. Oh, mic drop.
I mean,
I mean,
guys,
No.
Who
I'm
knows? Who knows? But still,
because
I still think
it's-
that there's something weird going on because we're still seeing the same people, the same sorts of rooms, except now he's not having any interaction with his friends, with Leon. You know what I mean? So, like, I think he's.
Leon's arc was done when he finished the Seinfeld story.
Yeah. It's deep.
All right. We'll circle back to that with predictions. We
You
want.
don't seem to like this
I do
theory
not
too
like
much.
this theory at all.
I wouldn't be
too easy.
surprised
I know.
if the whole season was that. You know, if.
I'd feel terrible if that was actually.
But I mean, like I don't imagine that they're not going to do it well or do it classily. You know, I have a feeling it's not going to be like this cheap. I think the fear is that it's some sort of weird cheap payoff where it's like none of this was real. But I think it's real.
I will preface it where if this case is the actual case, that it would be done so masterfully that we'd be like, duh.
Yeah, that's kind of how I'm kind of counting on
kind of
it.
like the season 1 reveal, but I don't feel so. We'll move on.
Yeah, sure.
Talking about duality, I want to say that Angela and Darlene are each other's duality in this universe, and they hinted at it a lot the end of last season with the Black Swan, where one was wearing white, one was wearing black. They were playing Black Swan. Like I think they kind of made that pretty clear. Angela, Darlene, and all of the society are working together to set up. They're pretty much trying to teach Angela how to write code, so she can get onto the part of the floor where the FBI are. To infect their server and ultimately hack the FBI.
Terminal commands. Yeah.
Can I ask you what year this is taking place in?
That's a good question.
I thought it was supposed to be 2015.
I tweeted about this because when on the TV, they were talking about the White House prepares for 4th of July, which means we're in the July after 5/9. Actually, we don't have any. We're in a July after 5/9. It would likely be the July after May 9th because everything seemed very very recent.
Tons of time.
The reason I'm asking this is because last week we saw with Ollie in the meeting, Prop 8 had just was it the Prop 8 celebration? That was in 2015, wasn't it?
Dmitry
Because,
Vinchioff
also,
in the
we've seen-
chat. Sorry if I mispronounced that. He said 2015. It was on a computer.
Fantastic, Dmitry.
Because we also see Obama.
Yeah,
in the
meaning
meeting
this
stuff,
was
yeah.
roughly the first week in July of 2015.
But this
Because
is my point.
5/9/15 was the hack.
I got something here for you.
Please.
If it's 2015, by the dates on their computer when they're teaching her the hack, if there's a discrepancy in the date. It would mean it was 2014. If you look at the screen, it actually, I think I have it in the notes, it's off by 1 day. When they're teaching Angela to code.
Okay.
When they're teaching Angela to hack, supposedly, and just type some letters. It said, I believe it was, gosh, I want to say either Wednesday, but it was off by 1 day, making it 2014, not 2015. The reason I'm bringing this up to a point is because there's a discrepancy in the year.
Sure.
So this talk about with timelines, alternate realities, so you know something you've been touching upon the last few weeks.
Yeah.
So giving you a little support in that sense because S-mail is attention to detail second to none. So why would the dates be wrong? Because I know I was asking for a
you're
reason because
right.
it was supposed to be 2015, but if you look at they showed this computer twice, and the date is wrong twice. Angela was prepping at 5:50 in the morning on a Wednesday, and it was off by 1 day. And the next day, when the femtocell drop went down, it was still off by a day on the computer screen on Darlene's computer.
You mean like by the digit of the years last year?
Her screen.
You're saying it was 2014 instead of 2015?
No, it said the date was wrong because I went into the calendar and I said this doesn't match up.
He's
Oh,
at
the
JC
date and the
Rubio on
day.
Twitter, and he's gonna have screen caps.
I
We're gonna need screen caps, but I know
promise
I
you guys,
agree.
yeah.
I agree they won't be that hard to come by.
interesting.
Yeah.
That is incredibly interesting because that would give more credence to the theory of I don't want to say a multiverse, but of the reality not being
Well,
like
it could
the
also
timeline
be,
being
you know,
askew.
they are running. It could just be that the Kali OS is off,
That's
or
the-
something. You know what I mean? It could be that just like you can change your MacBooks.
That was my only way out. I was
But
thinking,
that's kind of a lame. Why
Right.
even do it if it's just that the
Unless
settings
that's
were
bigger
weird?
later.
Yeah.
they did it for a reason because they did it twice.
So I'll just jump around a little. What do we think they put in Cisco's finger?
Nothing.
Oh, I think it was just a needle.
Me too.
It's a needle. It's just it's a form of torture.
Yeah, like that's
it looked
the needle
pretty
itself is
brutal.
just the immense pain.
Wouldn't y'all be screaming your heads off?
Yeah.
He took it like a chant.
Because it's going into the bone, right? Like
Yeah.
it's
a
like,
form of torture. They use it exactly for torture, and the fact that because you have so many nerve endings here, so when that needle goes in,
Oh, yeah.
you're gonna you're gonna cry like a little bitch.
But, yeah,
And
it's
But I feel like if intense pain like that, your body reacts differently than you
Shock.
think it would. Like the shock would actually set in, and you're just because
Maybe,
some of
I
the
don't
more
know.
intense pain in my life, I've never actually screamed as much as I've just reacted internally. But some people are just internal reactors.
yeah. Everyone responds differently to trauma, I think. But I would have been very unhappy for long after that scene.
going either.
How do you even? How would you go about getting that out? Would you just like bite it out? Like, what would you do?
Because you see him show up to that scene afterwards with Angela, and he's got it bandaged up, and
Yeah,
he
but-
blitzes a little bit.
I mean,
But it's like
you would have to go to the hospital, and they'd have to they'd have to tweeze it out, and it would probably be,
oh my god.
It would
it
be
would
even
probably
worse.
be
I'd
just
like,
as painful coming out.
just take it at the wrist. Just
Give up your whole hand for one finger.
I don't know,
What?
man. That's gonna hurt too bad, you know. I would have them numb me though, for sure. Numb all of just the whole arm, and do what you need to do. But I don't want to feel any of
Couldn't you
it.
just numb your finger? Never mind.
You could, but like I wouldn't want to take any chances. I would say like do it up here, because you know how like sometimes I don't know if you guys do this, but like it'll itch, like the back of my hand will itch, and you have to scratch like your forearm or something weird. That's a bad example, but like it doesn't itch in the right spot. You know what I mean? I feel like that's something that just so many nerves are firing that I'm gonna feel the whole thing. Yeah. I just right at the shoulder, just numb the left side of my body, and get the needle out. Wrap me up, send me home, doc.
I wanted to ask something more important about that whole scene. What did the Dark Army do to that femtocell? That's the
That's a
big
good
question. That's the big question. Did they modify it in such a way that F Society takes a fall for something coming up here? Because now I don't want to.
I think it's a matter of control. They modified it in such a way that they can control the hack.
Yeah,
'Cause
or
I
monitor
think-
it, or get access to FBI stuff on top of what.
Because
They're
I think
doing.
White Rose, who controls White Rose, who controls Dark Army, is pretty much pulling all these strings.
F
and I think-
Society seems very much under the control of Dark Army right now.
Very much. So much so that Dark Army has them thinking. Dark Army, through their own social engineering, has F Society thinking that the FBI has them. Where the only person who's even vaguely aware of F Society is Dom. And
Right.
Dom's nowhere near it. Also, I want to say
They,
Angela...
they do have Angela, I think, right? Is that because they have that she put the CD into the all safe stuff? So like Angela is
They don't have that yet.
legitimately a risk? No? Okay.
You mean
Well,
FBI?
No, FBI doesn't have that.
No, not yet.
Well, because
Yeah.
we'll talk about the Angela stuff, but to get into Dom, I think it's made clear that Dark Army went after the FBI last week, specifically so they'd back off investigating the Dark Army,
Sure, yeah.
meaning that Dom would have to back off investigating F Society or ramp up investigating F Society, but understanding that they work together on the 5/9 hack, because F Society claimed responsibility for the 5/9 hack. And then Tyrell Wellick became the straw man, meaning that the people actually responsible aren't being looked at, except for Angela. But the end of this episode, I did enjoy the scene with the shot with Angela at the terminal was all one take.
In the bathroom, or
Right?
the terminal when she went into the stall, or the terminal?
No, I don't remember. Never mind. No, I'm pretty sure.
Make sure to give us 5 stars. Go to
that's-
iTunes. Let us know what you think, guys.
Mystery Robot,
Doing a
AfterBuzz.
little commercial break, but let's.
Aeon Killer, A1 Killer. Just check the video. The date on Angela's machine was Wednesday, July 2nd, 2015.
Yeah, but that's not
which-
the date.
Oh, you're saying that July 2nd, 2015 is
It was a
not
Thursday.
Wednesday.
It was a Thursday.
And they're claiming it's a Wednesday?
Yep.
Oh.
Interesting.
Check your calendars.
Let's sit in dead silence while I check
Let's
my
all
calendar.
do that.
Meantime, let us read off some of your more other comments. Let's see. Dimitri says, I think the Dark Army is going to destroy F Society.
Yeah, I agree.
And let's see. Oh, they're still talking
kind
about the
of agree with
needle.
Oh, they're talking a lot about that
Man,
needle.
that
It's a
needle is
ceramic
that needle needs to be talked about because that is excruciating.
art
That
and
was
a card.
a harder scene for me to watch than Elliot eating the Adderall out of his own vomit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the needle thing. I don't
The
know.
needle thing kind of got to me.
Oh, it's like I have bones there. Like you can't. Ugh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Anyways.
Anyway,
a moment of
but you're
silence
right, you
for
guys
my-
are all. It's confirmed. July 2nd, 2015 was a Thursday.
Oh, it's a Thursday.
It was a
Awesome.
Thursday.
And it's
So-
listed as Wednesday on this episode.
So
Very
there's
interesting.
something to dig into.
Very interesting.
It's the Mandela effect.
I hope it's not just like the OS is off a day.
No, these things happen. Like,
Yeah.
I'd be really upset.
I don't
if-
think it is that.
I'd be really upset if this was a mistake.
Yeah.
Like, I'd be really, really happy if this was something they didn't get to till like 2 seasons.
Yeah.
It's like, by the way, her OS was off one, or by the way, that means like 6 other
Because the
things.
OS was off, maybe like
The
something
Wi-Fi went down
fails
and
or
blah, blah,
something.
blah.
Yeah.
Anything like that.
Very interesting.
I like the Darlene hack as well, that she pretty much had a square reader, which you can hack a square reader to do what she did, which is read any mag
Oh yeah,
swipe.
that was cool.
And then she had a Cantenna and an eCorp burner phone. eCorp, it set it on that, and then they had just burner phones made by eCorp. I liked those
smooth.
those details about this hack.
And the fact that she looked like is it Elizabeth from Girl with the Dragon Tattoo?
Yes,
Oh yeah.
like that was a straight up copy. That's
Yeah.
clearly what they were going for.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about Dom?
Yeah, I think Dom's onto something with thinking that the Dark Army was behind the shooting. Obviously, I think that they were just trying to push the FBI off the case, and it seems to kind of be working. But I think she's going to go rogue. I think
Completely
she's gonna kind of
rogue.
go rogue and do what she wants to do.
The thing about Dawn, what I like about her is, in a sense, she's unpredictable because, in a sense, speaking of duality, I think she's similar to Elliot in that sense. She's socially awkward. I don't even know. She cannot have a conversation without just with the Dark Army. The faux pas of just shouting out about the Dark Army. You do not do that. That is seen as impolite.
Yeah.
And when she was in Santiago, she has these outbursts. She has these moments with Ahmed when she was at the convenience store. When he was, he's losing his store, he's losing his life. She said, "Take advantage while we got a chance. Give me a sandwich." And
Okay.
she-
was a little-
I thought that was sweet, but
I thought that was sweet in her mind, whereas he was like, "Whoa, I really just told you that like my career."
Look at his
to a
reaction.
certain
I
extent is
definitely
over.
agree with you. I think that the convenience store thing. I mean, how do you respond? You can't she said, "I'm so sorry," and then I guess I'll give you a little bit more business while I can't. It was like.
But it was.
I
This,
thought that was sweet, but
he
she
kinda-
is very socially awkward.
yeah, but like he kind of connected with
general.
her on a personal level,
yeah,
and there's something to be said about the 5/9 attack that was supposed to go after the top 1%. Here's just a working class dude who runs a bodega in New York City. He has to close up shop.
yeah.
Also, there's something very subtle on the backdrop, which is bitcoins and then e-coins. Meaning that there's bitcoins, and I presume Price is starting an
His
his own digital cryptocurrency. So
Interesting.
I want to talk about Dom more, but
Smart.
I think we should just jump right into Price.
yeah.
I think his grand plan is for the government to bail E-Corp out.
Right. But they can't.
And then he can use E-Corp. I had it and then I lost it. No, it's the government to bail China to bail E-Corp out, or China to bail the government out.
They can't. The reason they
That
can't
might,
is
that
because
might
of
be
what
the
happened.
Dark Army's plan.
But they can't. And he said it himself. I believe was it the speaker that he was speaking to, the speaker of the House, that he said you cannot do that because of the blowback of what happened the week in the episode
Yes.
before, because of the FBI attack. There's no way you're gonna have China bail you out.
That's what it is. He wants China to bail out
You
E-Corp.
can't. You can't. No, the public, the president couldn't take that to Congress. There's no way that would happen. So then, what does that mean? Does that escalate a war? Now, underneath that, is that going to escalate some sort of war, some sort of bigger conflict between us and China?
It'd be super interesting.
Which is possibly what White Rose wanted all along, which was his phase 2, to speed things up. Remember, a few episodes
Yeah.
ago, he wanted to speed it up.
Meaning, well, because it seems like his plan was to get Price to destabilize the U.S. government so that China can then invest in the debt, or invest in the cryptocurrency, or create anarchy.
Well, I think anarchy's
Pretty close.
I think
yeah, pretty close to
create
hand now.
I guess create anarchy.
Especially we're watching, working class citizens lose their jobs, lose their ways of life. We have people running around protesting with masks on all the time.
And I've been waiting to see that. I've been waiting to see more of that fallout. It seems very intimate what we've been experiencing thus far. I want to see the fallout from the common man. I want, like what we saw with Ahmed, because it relates to. Remember we were watching the first commercial break where they had that E Corp commercial. It was the last one where they talked about in 1884 an E Corp came. Well, I googled 1884 financial collapses, and there was the panic of 1884, and which was a big ripple effect, which we are feeling now. And I wonder if this is just it being played all over again on today's scale.
It's interesting.
Because they say it for a reason on the show.
Yeah.
Well, because
but
that's also a thing. A lot of world leaders do, whether they're shadow leaders or not, which is show the people anarchy, show the people destabilization, so that when you show up with stabilization, they'll do whatever you say.
Tie it into the master slave.
Yeah.
It's the whole time to the episode.
I like how the E Corp commercials are starting to get seemingly like more desperate. It's more like everything's okay, we got it. Like everything's gonna be fine. Corporate America.
There was a Hewlett Packard commercial that was all about their cybersecurity that I was like, "This is an Allsafe commercial, right? We're still doing this. We're still nope. All right,
Interesting.
not an Allsafe commercial. It was actually just Hewlett Packard and their."
Oh, and another thing, I saw this one on Reddit, and it was talking about price. In that scene, you'll see
on the wall.
Was it the wall? I'm talking about the table.
Oh, the duality in Price.
Yes.
That it looked almost like an ocean below him.
It looked like he was drowning in the ocean, and his line of dialogue, it's something to the effect of people drowning in the whole situation. But you can see him like on the glass. If you look at the table, it's the framing of the shot.
Yeah.
It shows him drowning. And for weeks we've been asking about this. What's his vulnerability? Let's see him lose his edge. The master of the universe. Finally, we start seeing the desperation. We finally starting to see the chinks in the armor.
Also speaking of world markets in 1884 and crashes, the poster behind him was actually a pre-World War I map. But it was actually a really well-designed map because all of the land masses were actual people who pretty much characterized the part of the world that they were representing. It was real.
It was people. The map was people.
The map was artist renderings of people. Well, I'm at Steve Kaufmann. I will tweet this picture so we know what I'm talking about.
Cool. I guess it was like different people worked on the map, or like there's people integrated into the map.
Imagine like people drawn into what would otherwise be land masses, and
That's
those
cool.
people are like cartoonish, stereotypical figures of what that represented. So like one big part was the Hun, one big part was, or I guess it would have been Ottomans.
Yeah,
because it's like
that's
that
cool.
old,
Yeah.
and like one side is kind of, and they're interacting at the border, and it was really well done. It had a really long German name that I couldn't
That
pronounce.
sounds
That you'll
cool.
tweet out later.
Then I'll
Please-
tweet out the
please
whole
tweet that.
screenshot.
I want to see that.
Nice, man.
Sounds very neat.
Yes. So
Dom's doing stuff. Angela's doing stuff.
one other quick Easter egg I briefly saw was the Johanna on the cover of a tabloid,
On the newspaper, yeah.
and then it was the headline was something to the effect of like, "Crazy lady calls in the night," because it was a picture of her from last week where she was on her phone
Oh, I missed
in her
this.
bathrobe. In her bathrobe, running outside trying to find Tyrell. Somebody snapped a photo of that, and it's on the front page of stuff.
I wonder if it was Tyrell.
But see, I don't know if you guys covered this last week, and I hate to backtrack, but
I don't think it was Tyrell,
people
but
are
who knows?
theorizing was that Elliot calling her, meaning if Elliot is Tyrell, because that's exactly when he was getting his butt beat by Ray and his people. That's been floating around Reddit for like
How much
Yeah.
has Tyrell interacted with? Yeah, no, I guess it could be. I mean, because it could be that Elliot's subconscious created Tyrell when Tyrell called Elliot initially, and the fact that we don't ever hear Tyrell speak on the phone with Johanna. I don't think that's what it is, but
Elliot met Johanna at the end of season 2. They are different. Yeah, they did.
end of season 1, last
Or
episode.
sorry, end of season 1. Sorry.
Yeah, no, what I'm saying is
yeah.
that beginning of season 2, like the exposure that we've had to Tyrell outside of the visions of him have been a phone call between Elliot and him in Elliot's psyche,
Okay.
right? That could.
Oh, you mean that Tyrell could exist only in his psyche starting now?
Right now. And that doesn't mean that he doesn't exist elsewhere, but it could be. I guess what I'm saying is it could be. They haven't ruled out the way that it's been written yet that Elliot was on the phone with Johanna. That Elliot is the one who sent Johanna the box. You know what I mean? It could be Mr. Robot's doing.
That's fair.
Yeah. But I mean, it could still be Tyrell or any.
Ooh, I can't wait.
It could be anyone.
I can't
We
wait
don't know
for
much about
predictions.
that yet.
Because you guys, I had some fun last week with predictions.
Yeah.
And you guys had some fun in the comments about my predictions.
Cool. Should we do it?
Well, no, we still
have one more.
We still have to talk more about Mr. Robot and Elliot after the transition from a regular sitcom episode.
Right.
To him, Elliot now has to deal with Ray.
Yeah, it's gonna be
Like he's pretty much Ray's prisoner, Ray's slave, Ray's caretaker.
This is the part I was disappointed. This is the only part. I know we only have an hour and 10 minutes of show. I wish we would have had more progression there with Elliot and Ray. It seemed like they didn't move much, and this is the only part that I could kind of take a little bit away from it. That we didn't have enough time. That I know he's still his captor. He got thrown down where Maxine was laid, I guess, laid to rest. But the interesting part about that was when Elliot thanked Mr. Robot.
Yeah, that was the. I think that was the biggest moment in the episode for me.
You know.
Yeah, because it was like acceptance of your alter ego. I mean, that's like what he's been fighting since he figured out that he had this alter ego. He was fighting it.
But then we also end on the flashback with Mr. Robot and Elliot, a child Elliot in the car, explaining that I just bought a space, and you get to name it whatever you feel when you pull up. So the presumption is that he's going to name it Mr. Robot because that's what he felt when he pulled up.
That Elliot named it Mr. Well, we know that it was called Mr. Robot from the other flashback, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That said, it would be really, really funny if he called it something else and then they named it something else, and then they go back and wipe all the files on video on demand to make the name of that shop whatever he said at the time, and create a literal Mandela effect. Is that just me? I thought that would be incredible.
Berenstain.
So you don't change the name of the show. You just change the name of the computer store, which, by the way, was never spoken. So that in what we see right now, he says, let's call it Mr. Sillybottom. And then they call it Mr. Sillybottom. Starting next week, it's Mr. Sillybottom. But if you go back on Comcast On Demand and watch season 1, episode 4 or 5, when we actually see this again, it says Mr. Sillybottom.
You're saying they should 1984 it and
they should retcon. They should purposely retcon the name of the shop to make us all think it's like the Bernstein Bears,
Mr. Roboto,
Mandela effect,
Circuit City, something like that.
I think it's cool. I don't think that was the intention of the scene.
No, that was not the intention of the scene.
But I see what you're saying. Yeah,
it was a beautiful scene. It was the complete opposite of what we started with. Because we had the sitcom and we ended with such a poignant moment in the season that gave us this whole season. That's all it's been about, is filling in the gaps, giving all the characters more layers, finding out how F Society started, giving us all of that we were asking season 1. It's giving us the answers. You know, people,
but still so many questions,
and giving us more questions with those answers.
That's a good story.
Yeah, of course.
If every week you come back with more
questions than answers.
Yeah. If every week you leave with more questions, but you got your answers. Yeah. Oh, that's a good story.
Hey, I got one from a fan. They said, "What if we named it F Society?" This is from Teodoro's Is it Mashwa?
Mashwa?
Yes.
Yeah, Mashwa.
Names it F Society.
That would be funny too. I would love that if they renamed it. If he named it F Society and it was this weird Mandela effect that we all have to decipher now.
Oh God.
I would love that.
Who knows what's going to happen?
And that does not seem out of the ordinary for a show that just spent the first 19 minutes completely switching genres.
And thank you for that.
That if they went in and just re-edited all the VOD content to just be like, nope, it's F Society now. F Society in the Sega font. They'd do that. You know they'd do that. If it fit their narrative, which it's kind of coming close to their narrative.
They could just change the name of the show. It'd be weird.
I can't wait.
It'd be unprecedented. But
they have a breakdancing episode.
Who knows?
I can't wait.
Are there any loose ends here? I think we...
Open it for fans. What if fans? We have a few minutes left.
We have a few minutes left before predictions. We'll go into predictions, and if you guys have any questions for us or anything that we may have missed or you wanted to touch up on, and let us know in the chat.
Yeah.
But right now we'll dive into predictions.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Oh, we got that new that fill like right here.
Oh,
This button
nice,
just hit me right in the eyes.
light bright.
Starting with JC, what do you got?
Well, okay. The way I'm seeing it is, judging by what Mr. Robot said in the beginning of the episode about Angela, I'm going to go out on a limb. Let's all go on a limb. You guys can make fun of me on the chat.
I've got some. Maybe my prediction might be wacky too. So
Did you not see the limb I went out on last week?
No,
guys?
Sure.
I'm gonna watch. I didn't catch predictions last week. Okay, I think will she buckle under Dom's pressure? That's if Dom can have a normal conversation with her, and put some pressure on her, and cause her possibly to turn. She's on their team. She's on their team. Mr. Robot said that this week.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Will she make a slight turn? I don't think that's over, because I still think that Angela's, we found out a little bit more about her motivations last week, but you put some heat on her. Remember last week she was willing to take the plea bargain deal and, serve a year or something, worst case scenario. She'll weigh out her options. And if this is her way out and throws F Society under the bus, or maybe not.
You're saying
she's going to throw Cisco under the bus, perhaps.
Oh, I see.
Because of his relationship with Dark Army.
See, I took.
That's my big crazy.
Yeah,
one.
no,
Sorry.
I kind of like it. I kind of like that. I took her recognizing Cisco and not saying it as being leverage over F Society, kind of. You know what I mean?
I took that as leverage with Cisco.
Well, over Cisco for sure, but like something that she could use because she knows. What does she know? She knows that he is the reason that this happened in the first place. So she knows that he's connected to the Dark Army. Is that right?
Yes.
So she knows. I guess maybe she doesn't. She doesn't know F Society knows his connections. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So she's choosing to let him be sort of a mole in F Society. That's what I took as the choice that she made. Am I missing something?
No, but Darlene knows that Cisco's connection to Dark Army.
Darlene knows that.
Right.
But Angela doesn't know that Darlene knows that, or anyone in F Society does. So I took her like letting the moment pass with Cisco and not saying anything was being like, she has leverage over them. Like she has no loyalty to F Society, I guess is what I'm saying.
Okay.
In that she would rather see them crumble, because then maybe it takes the ire off of her. So that leads credence to what you were saying as far as like I totally think she would right now, the way that she's been this season so far, I think she'd totally go to the FBI if she had to. I don't think she would choose to, but I think that if she's going to be put in jeopardy by Dom, for example.
I'll go out on one right now. Dom, by the next 3 weeks, will join F Society and leave FBI. Because she'll get so fed up, and actually, I think Dom's ideals are more in line with what F Society is trying to do than what the FBI is trying to do. We've never seen her actually try to maintain actual order or enforce rules. Actually, her motivations of why she wants to enforce rules or order isn't very clear. I think she just wants to be the best. I think she just wants to know she figured it out. She might figure it out and then just join F Society.
It goes so closely with the parallel with Elliot as far as like Elliot just has this need to hack people and understand them. She has a need to figure it out. Like she just has this unsatiable curiosity.
I like that.
My prediction, I think, might be like a longer one, but I predict utter anarchy. I predict conflict between the U.S. and China, and yeah, I could actually see a reality where maybe the FBI crumbles or is under severe threat, where it becomes sort of Dark Army versus F Society.
Actually,
you know what I mean? Like the physical
Well,
world crumbles.
only
and it's all
because
about-
I think right now F Society are pawns against the Dark Army.
the Dark Army's pawns.
Dark Army, which we know to be a hacker group that is also a clandestine state organization.
Yeah.
They are working. White F Society are pawns in taking down the FBI. I think F Society
for sure.
are going to take. I think F Society is going to take down the FBI, and then I think it's going to become known that the Dark Army is China, and that America will have no choice but to go up against China, something we've never wanted to do in our modern time.
I got a last prediction. It's a quick one, and this is Steve's not going to like this one.
Okay.
in the open, they had, I don't know if you guys, you watch all these shows, these podcasts that break down the show. There was a hacking robot, which was on USA.
Yes.
When Andy Greenwald was interviewing the cast, he asked each cast member to describe the season in one word. And Elliot said one word: committed. That's it. I'm done.
So am I.
That's my last prediction.
I really anyway, guys, let us know in the comments if that's what you think. And if it isn't, what is your theory? Thank you guys so much for joining us in the chat. Thank you guys for joining us live on
Thank you guys.
live on the YouTube post-dated live. Yes, sir.
Where can they find you, buddy?
Everyone can find me on Twitter at Steve Kaufmann. That is KAUFMANN. I do a lot of shows here at AfterBuzz TV. I tweet about them regularly. I also do live comedy all across Los Angeles. I tweet about that regularly.
Nice, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. My name is Taylor Boldt. You can find me on Twitter at Taybolt. That's BOLDT. And you can also find me on Instagram at Tbolt. BOLDT.
Nice, well done, guys. And a last comment. Someone tweeted out actually on the chat roll saying, I can't even form sentences right now.
We're all over.
And I'm the same right now. So
That committed thing, that messed with my brain a little bit.
send me
in a good
all
way.
your comments and your tweets. Follow me over at JC Rubio TV all across the board. And we'll see you next week, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you,
You're
friend.
supposed to do that, yeah. Sorry.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
See you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.